Disney fans, welcome back to episode 2 of By the Numbers, where we give you some fun facts and figures, this time about Walt Disney World. In particular, today we'll talk about the property itself and the transportation. But first, let's give you the answers to the 3 questions we asked in the last video. So the first question was, how many hot dogs do you think Disney World sells per year? Now, as you recall, Disney World sells 7 million hamburgers and they sell 5 million hot dogs. So they sell about 2 million fewer hot dogs per year. The second question. Hi again. Okay, technical difficulties resolved. As you can see, we are back in action with my little setback there. So as you can tell, it's not a green screen. Okay, so the second question we asked in the previous video was, how many guests do you think attended the opening of Magic Kingdom? And the answer to that is 10,422 guests, which isn't really a lot compared to how many people show up on any given day to the parks today. For our third and final question, you may recall that Disney World recovers about 6,000 cell phones per day, and we wanted to know how many cameras, actual cameras, you think they found per day, and the answer to that was 3,500. That is a lot of cameras considering every cell phone has a camera. So I'm impressed by those of you that are like that dedicated to photography. Okay, we got those 3 questions answered. Now let's get on to the topic of today, which is going to be the Walt Disney World property and transportation, which is pretty impressive, and I think you'll agree after you hear some of these facts and figures. So Disney World itself is 27,000 acres or 43 square miles. Now that might not sound like a lot, but consider this. That means the size of Disney World is equivalent to all of San Francisco or 2 Manhattan. So it is gigantic. For comparison, Disneyland is just 510 acres, making Disney World 53 times more space. And that was by design. Walt hated that he bought so little land in Southern California. He was always bothered by all this stuff that crept up around it and surrounding it. He wanted more land to expand. So all of these acres in Disney World was absolutely by design. Now, amazingly, Walt actually bought all this land for about $5 million in the mid-60s. Now, in fairness, if you take inflation into account, that would be about $43 million, but that's actually still like a pretty good value for the amount of land. I mean, he bought 27,000 acres. Now, one of the reasons he was able to buy all this land for a relatively cheap amount is because he used a bunch of different shell companies that did not involve the name Disney. He did not want people to know that Disney was buying this land because he knew that then everyone would just jack up the prices. So that's basically how he got all this land for a pretty reasonable amount of money. Okay, so what's Disney doing with all that land, that 27,000 acres? Well, as you know, there's 4 theme parks: Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, and Hollywood Studios. There's 2 water parks, Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach. There's Disney Springs, which has about 150 different shops and restaurants, the biggest of which is World of Disney, which is actually the biggest Disney merchandise retailer in the world, right there at Disney World. But there's a lot of other stuff too. In addition to the parks and Disney Springs, there's also 36 hotels on property. 26 of them are owned and operated directly by Disney, and 9 of those are DVC, which is Disney Vacation Club or Disney's timeshare, even though to Disney, timeshare is like a bad word. So lots of hotel occupancy at Disney World. In fact, there's about 30,000 hotel rooms and 3,200 DVC units. In addition to the hotels, they've also got about 400 cabins and 800 campsites. Now, as if all of that wasn't enough, they've also got 3 championship 18-hole golf courses, another 9-hole golf course, and 2 mini golf locations. So Disney World literally has like everything you need. I mean, they are putting those 27,000 acres to good use, but believe it or not, they have to leave a lot of that acreage for development purposes. Like, part of the reason they got all that land and the reason they're able to do what they want with the land is an agreement that they won't actually develop all of it. They've got to keep some of it just as is, and they've got to keep some of the natural ecological habitats in check. And so Disney World actually continues to buy land up in that region. In the last year or 2, they've already made a couple more parcel purchases, and sometimes they don't do anything with the land. It just means that the more land they have, the more land they can develop. even with these constraints where they've got to like keep land as is. Now, with all this land, it does create a bit of a challenge in terms of like logistically, how do your guests get to and from? And obviously, we're familiar with the buses, the Skyliner now, the boats, cars, all that good stuff. But there's some pretty incredible transportation stats for Disney World as well. So Disney has a fleet of over 400 buses, and those buses transport over 250,000 guests per day. That's 250,000 people per day. In addition to that, the 12 monorail trains transport an additional 150,000 people per day. So between the buses and the monorail, Disney World is transporting 400,000 guests per day, which is insane. And quick fun fact about the monorail, since opening, it has registered enough trips to register 30 round trips to the moon. So yeah, the monorail, it's got a lot of mileage under its belt for sure. Okay, well that wraps up the facts we're going to talk about in this video. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the cast members a little bit more. And here are 2 questions that you can answer in the comments, which I will answer in video number 3. The first question is, how many unique outfits do you think Mickey and Minnie both have at Walt Disney World? And question number 2, how many total PhotoPass pictures do you think PhotoPass photographers take of guests per day? All right, leave your guesses in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. So long.